This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
All right, Senate Bill 539 and House Bill 701. It sounds very, very boring, but if I told you that this is one bill, or actually two bills, that have huge impacts on your wallet, now we're a little bit intrigued. And joining us today on the phone in her car is Audrey Fick-Schaefer, who is the Director of Communications for IMP, to talk a little bit about it. How are you, Audrey?
I'm very well, thank you. I hope the same for you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, for those that are listening that don't know what IMP is, can you sort of explain what IMP is?
Sure. We are a company that is one of those very rare things, an independent company that operates in the concert business. We're headquartered in Bethesda, Maryland, and we've got the 930 Club. The newest club is the Atlantis that we just opened in May of this past year. We also own the Anthem, which is at the Wharf in DC, and we operate Merriweather Post Pavilion. In fact, we're on our 20th year coming up to that, doing it, and operate the Lincoln Theater in Washington, DC, the historic theater. And
so you've got a lot of leisure time, right? Then
it's, if anybody who does is lucky enough to get to do what I do for a living and complains about it, shame on them. I am beyond the luckiest kid in the world, and I've never needed a lot of sleep, and so I'm perfect for this.
And for my own self, and I don't know that I ever know this, I may have been in Maryland for quite some time. What does IMP stand for?
Well, when the company was first formed 44 years ago, it stood for It's My Party.
That's awesome.
But we just go by IMP.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, let's get into the gist of this thing. We want to talk about these two bills. And, over the summer and I guess the spring, we all heard stories of Taylor Swift tickets selling for tens of thousands of dollars this past year. And this pair of bills is hopefully looking to prevent issues like that where, so people can actually afford to go see a concert. I know recently my daughter wanted to see Noah Kahan, and I went on, it was sold out by the venue, and I went on to like a StubHub or whatever it was. And it was like $700 tickets for crappy seats. And I'm like, okay, and this was probably 7 months ago. So he was still fairly up and coming. I know he's selling out now and stuff like that, but I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, how does a kid afford that? And hopefully these bills can prevent that. Now, is that where we are?
Yeah. And in a nutshell, what these bills will do will make the concert ticket buying experience fair for consumers, in that what will happen is it will make it illegal to resell a ticket above face value. So this way we can drive out the professional brokers that are only buying tickets in order to be able to amass them, get between the artist and their fans, and then jack up the price to whatever they think they can get. They can only sell it at face value also. There's going to be absolutely no incentive for them to continue to prey on people who are buying tickets to Maryland events.
Why is this not a no-brainer for the legislature?
I think that we're going to be successful, actually. I think that because of the simplicity of this, and because this bill is really just so blatantly pro-consumer, but it's also pro-artist and pro-venue, that I really believe that we're going to get this one across the finish line.
That's awesome. But I mean, it covers all in pricing. So when I look and see the bottom line, it tells me it's going to cost me $125 to see this show at Merriweather. And when I roll my Visa through, it comes through at $125. It limits the resale value. So if I can't make the show, I can call Audrey up and say, hey, I've got this ticket. It's $125. And Audrey says, great, I'll Venmo you. Off you go. And there's another one there that it shares the data. It sort of ties the purchaser to the redeemer. Is that in that provision in that bill too? Yeah, I thought there was something that was tying, that they needed to maintain who actually purchased it. So
okay, that's not stipulated in the bill. I don't know that it needs to be, but it sounds like a good idea too. What we wanted to do and what we applauded about this bill is a couple of things. One is it takes a profit motive out of those who are preying on ticket buyers and fans. It ensures that people who can't make a show because they can't get their babysitter or something has happened with their plans, they absolutely can transfer a ticket, but also at face value. It also bans what's called in the business speculative tickets or spec tickets. And what that means is when brokers and the platforms that host them put tickets up for sale that they don't even have. And it happens every single week. Like yesterday, we announced more Merriweather shows going on sale. It was a Wednesday to be purchased on a Friday. And so we give people 2 days to figure out what their schedule is, who else wants to go with them, can they afford it, and thus and such. So the on sale is Friday morning at 10. Well, by Wednesday afternoon, the day that we announce it, 2 days before anybody else has a ticket, we're seeing these tickets on sale at exorbitant prices on StubHub, Vivid Seats, Ticket Network, SeatGeek, and the like. They don't have those tickets. They're like unregulated arbitrage where they're guessing they're going to find a way to get those tickets and then jack it up. And two things are at play here. Consumers get fooled into thinking, oh my gosh, well, it's not on the venue website, so they must all be sold out. I better grab this $1,000 ticket here instead of, because I've already missed the boat. Well, they hadn't missed the boat. They just had to wait 2 days for the real on sale to happen. But here's the other thing that is prevalent with the current ticketing, I guess you would call it ecosystem right now, is there have been bots that have been illegal computer programs designed to vacuum up all the tickets before real consumers have a chance to get them. And it's illegal both at the state level and the federal level. There has only been one case in 6 years at the federal level that has ever been prosecuted. I guess it is a really hard crime for someone to be able to pursue and have it come to fruition legally. And it's the scalpers are getting better and better at all the algorithms that they have and the apps. I was just listening to a podcast of a woman who went undercover at a quote unquote ticket brokers convention. And it was like a whole trade show and how you can get more tickets than you're legally allowed and using illegal products to do it. And she said that she saw someone show her a program that enables them through just one computer to pretend to be 1,000 different people at the same time, using 1,000 different credit cards. Their system would trick the internet into thinking that there were 1,000 different IPs through which they were placing those tickets.
Okay, so with that software then, and I don't know what the capacity is, but I'll throw out the Lincoln Theater. I could go on there and essentially buy 100% of the tickets for the Lincoln Theater, and you would get yours. I mean, whatever it may be, but I could just have carte blanche to mark it up whatever I wanted.
We see it happening on every show we put on sale.
Jeez. As you were talking, I just looked, I saw your thing from Merriweather Post. Okay. And you announced that Maggie Rogers is coming in on June 16th. Tickets went on sale at 10 o'clock this morning, and you're showing them official tickets at $55, $75, $95, and $125, depending on where you are. The cheapest ticket I'm finding on StubHub is $63, and they go up to $195 at this point. So you're absolutely right. I mean, within 3 hours of it going on sale, they're already selling these tickets on the secondary market. That's crazy.
I mean, but they were selling them 2 days ago before the tickets were on sale.
And they do have a little badge on there saying that the average price is less than 10% lower than.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Whatever. I don't give any credibility to anything that's not our website. If you buy through Merriweather's website and you click through, that's the only way to guarantee to know that you're getting a real ticket at the right price. So scalpers sell fake tickets, and people come to our gates with their ticket all excited to come on in. And if it's a fake ticket, we can't let them in. The amount of disappointment and anger and understandable ire at every show when this happens. And, there are people who travel for shows. We had fans from all 50 states in DC last year. Not uncommon for us. People get on planes, they drive a lot of hours to be with us. And while StubHub and Vivid Seats is very proud to say that they guarantee if the ticket's not right, well, that's not going to help somebody who just spent money on a flight or a hotel or missed work, or if it's a sold out show and we can't sell them another ticket. They're out of luck. And how it hurts everybody, one, besides the fan and the consumer abuse that is, it turns them off to the whole concert buying experience. And it hurts the artist as well. Or even if the ticket works and it's sold for 10 and 20 times the face value, that fan doesn't understand oftentimes that it's not the artist that has overcharged them. It's the scalper site that they went to that has overcharged them. So they have a very negative feeling. And, artists work really hard to come up with the right pricing for their tickets. One, based on, they know how much it costs for them to tour and all the people that they have to hire. They created the art, obviously, but they have lighting designers and sound people and tech support and a whole band and a bus driver and a bus and all the funds that it costs to travel through that. So that's a small business on top of being an artist, and they see none of the money that the scalpers are giving. But the other part of it though is the price that a ticket is set for is part of the relationship between the artist and their fan, because the artist doesn't want to take advantage of that. They want the fan to come back next year or 3 years from now. They want them to feel good about the experience, to buy a t-shirt, and it interrupts that whole thing. And, anybody who's got tickets listed on StubHub and Vivid Seats that are professional sellers, people who bought their tickets specifically not to go, but to take advantage of people who wanted to go, that whole system interrupts the relationships.
It really does, because if I sit there and if I had to pay, since she's in the news, we'll go with Taylor Swift, who gave $100,000 to all of her truck drivers. Okay, so there's a cost. But, if I bought a secondary market ticket for Taylor Swift for, say, $1,500, okay, which would be a real swing for me when they're normally, I think it was 125 or something like that. Am I going to buy the merch from the show? No, I'm not. Am I going to get that beer? I probably, maybe one beer, not two beers. And I can't imagine coming across country thinking I'm going to go see Maggie Rogers at Merriweather, and somebody at the gate says, it's a bogus ticket. Enjoy your night at Union Jack's.
It absolutely happens. And the other people that it harms is other artists that are missing out because that fan can't buy shows to more tickets to more shows. And that impedes a lot of emerging artist development, because if they can't get it going, because that money's been sucked out of the music ecosystem by people who are only just lining their pockets and not putting it back into the industry, then it can have negative impacts for a generation or two to come. And you as a parent might not be able to buy those 4 tickets. Maybe you're just buying 2 of those tickets. And so you're not exposing your kids to the whole environment and the culture of going to a show. So it might not be on their mind to start doing that when they get into high school, college, or they're on their own either. These habits start young oftentimes, and that's getting frozen out.
They do. My 3 grown kids, their very first concert was at Merriweather. It was the Pussycat Dolls and the Black Eyed Peas.
I was there that night. That was so much fun.
On the Toyota, it was like the Toyota tour or whatever it was. I remember
I remember that. Pussycat Dolls opened. Yep. And then Black Eyed Peas. That was a fun show. So that happens to be the perfect kind of a show for this example. That's one that you bring young fans to, and then it sparks the whole lifestyle of going again, because the energy that you get from being there. And yeah, the other thing that we see is that there are, organizations that have worked really hard to try to mimic our site and trick people into thinking that they're buying directly from us when they're not. So that's a buyer beware. And people, they're really good at tricking people, and they're really good investing their money. They don't have to hire the artist or all of our staff. So they invest their money in Google ads. So their Google ads will come up. There'll be like 5 links that come before Merriweather. And so people get, caught up in those webs there and think that they're buying from us, and they're not. And that is extremely problematic, on one, because of heretofore, the pricing is so out of whack. But then also, when there's a change in a show, which happens, either the times have changed or the dates have changed or it's been canceled, we, of course, alert our ticket buyers. They don't. And people end up coming to our venue. And a lot of them have gotten on that plane, as we talked about, they're out of luck.
Wow. And I guess, yeah. And if they have no way of knowing where they are, that's wow. And,
yep. It's not like we don't know who ended up with the tickets, because it's not like those organizations or individuals tell us, hey, we've transferred the ticket to this person. So if there's a change, and like last year, an unfortunate example, the Chicks needed to postpone by a month. We send out an email to all our customers, letting them know that, and telling them, if you can't make the new date, let us know, we'll refund you. But if you can make it, great, that's your ticket. There's nothing you need to do. Well, we got an email from someone who bought 2 tickets. I think it was like $800 for $125 tickets. It was not us. And they somehow or another, they learned that the date had changed and they couldn't make it. And they contacted the seller, and the seller was basically, tough luck, we're not refunding you.
Oh my gosh.
So they were out $869
per ticket.
And and it's not like we can't help them because we didn't get their money.
Wow. And it's funny, you mentioned about where you fall on the search engines. I mean, when I put in Maggie Rogers Merriweather, StubHub jumps up first, Vivid Seats jumps up second, Ticketmaster jumps up, Columbia Pavilion, which I don't know what that is, but then Merriweather Music.
Click on that, because that's not us, but it's somebody trying to pretend that is us.
Yeah, and then Merriweather Music, Pavilion.
See how it will trick people. And I've had, people are really smart, educated, know how to read, and get duped. I know of a woman whose son owns a venue, and she got duped. It's just they're good at doing it.
Well, your tickets that started at $55 on the official site are starting at $95 on Merriweather tickets, or ColumbiaPavilion.com. It's crazy.
I can tell you, Maggie Rogers would not be by that.
No, she's not. She's an Eastern Shore girl. She loves us here. This is her hometown.
That's right. You're exactly right.
That is crazy. Well, I tell you, I did get an email from this Protect Ticket Rights, and one of their arguments, which I thought was kind of amusing, and it's mostly referencing like the Ravens, I guess, and probably the Commanders, but they're saying that folks can't afford season tickets unless they sell out at a profit the rest of their tickets. And I'm like, well, they're not harmed. I mean, if you don't want to go to the game, buy the tickets that you want to go and go to the game, enjoy it, have a good time. If you sell it at face value, you're not harmed. You're not enriched, but you're not harmed. And I just don't get that argument. It's like, well, if I can't have something for nothing, I don't want it. And I was scratching my head at that.
Yeah, it's the entitlement. But having said that, I'm in the concert business. That's what I understand. I know that sports tickets are a whole different vehicle, a different beast, a different purchasing experience. So I'll stay out of that one.
Well, I'll tell you a question for you though. I mean, okay, we've got this now. We're going to have to resell at face value. Okay. So I bought a ticket for Maggie Rogers, we'll say, and I can't make the show. And if I want to sell it to you, I say, okay, hey, I've got the $55 ticket. You want the lawn seat. And you say, great, here's, I'll Venmo you $55. What is the mechanism? Is there any mechanism to prevent me from saying, hey, I want 75 for it as an individual, just me to you? I mean, obviously it's there in law. I mean, so that's just going to be communication and publicity that, hey, you can't sell tickets for more than their face value.
Well, the thing that will be easy to monitor is when people list them on the sites,
right,
where the vast majority of the exchange has been going through. But then again, there have been studies that have shown those outlets that we've already named, the majority of their tickets are professional brokers, not just you who can't make it because you've got to go to your kid's baseball game. And that's where the lion's share of the activity and I think consumer abuse is what I would call it, is taking place. And it should clean that up.
I guess to be expected. That's to be expected. And, this is not just an issue, too, for those that are listening, for large venues like Merriweather. The Ballet Theater of Maryland here in Annapolis, which performs 4 times a year. And, in Maryland Hall, it's 675 seats or whatever. They've had counterfeit tickets show up at the door, purchased for inflated pricing. And everything they put out now puts disclaimers saying, hey, only buy, go to ballettheatermaryland.org and go from there to buy your tickets. So when you do buy from Merriweather, you want to go to, merriweathermusic.com or, the Anthem or 930 or wherever you're going to, go to the original site and be transported to whoever fulfills their tickets, whether it be Ticketmaster, AEG, or somebody else. I mean, it could be Eventbrite or anything like that. Have you seen any loopholes or downsides to the legislation?
No, I don't. I think that by them so clearly and brilliantly taking away the profit motive of people who only want to sell tickets to reap zillions of dollars, by taking that profit motive out, it really is going to curtail a lot of other bad behavior that's inherent. Like, there's no reason for you to have all these websites and bots if you can't sell for over face value. You're just going to go to another state. And I think that because of that, actually, we're going to have more artists come and play with us.
There's a neat little benefit for that.
Yep, because artists don't want their art and their work getting scalped by complete strangers that have no interest in their career or their ability to keep the career going.
Well, you've heard so many different artists that have started to take a stand on that and said, no, I'm going to control how this is sold. And rightfully so. I mean, you've created the art. If my name's Picasso, I'm going to tell you that I want $1,000 for that art. And if you want to buy it, then that's fine. But I'm not going to let somebody pretend it's a Picasso and sell it for $20,000.
A great example from last concert season was The Cure. And they were adamant that if the ticket needed to be resold, it could only be fan to fan at face value. And we did that at Merriweather. Unfortunately, there are 7 states where the secondaries, the platforms like StubHub and Vivid Seats, have gone into those state houses and made it illegal to restrict the transfer, how it could be transferred. So they're saying that whoever buys the ticket is the one who gets to determine how to sell it and for how much, instead of the person whose ticket it is. And so there was a study by the National Independent Talent Organization. That's a trade organization of artist agents and managers. And they looked at the behavior of resale last year and how in the states that The Cure could not put their foot down on their ticketing, the enormous amount that the scalpers got out of it, where they could not do that in the other states.
Right. Are other states looking at similar legislation as to Maryland? Do you know?
I think that, well, there are definitely always states, here and there looking. I have not seen any legislation that is this pro-consumer in any of the states.
I mean, I know that you play in DC and Maryland, so I mean that makes sense to me. But I would think that this would be something that other states, I mean, I can't imagine any legislature that's anti-consumer overtly, that.
Oh, John, you're adorable. So
is that the northern version of bless your heart?
Yes, it is. No, it's like you're so
you're so naive
and
gullible. What the?
No, you're so pure of heart, and I wished it were so, because what you're saying makes perfect sense. But I have a perch for what's going on nationally, because I'm lucky enough to sit on the board of the National Independent Venue Association, and that's made up venues like ours, but all across the country, every state in the land, and so I can keep my fingers on the pulse of what's happening in other states because of our network and communication on advocacy. And here's the thing. The StubHubs and Vivid Seats of the world are getting into a lot of legislators' offices first. And they use really fancy language to try to position it as they are speaking for the consumer when they're doing the exact opposite. There's a thing called the Ticket Buyer's Bill of Rights. Well, that sounds rational, except for when you know that, one, they're sponsored by StubHub and Vivid Seats and the rest. And what they're really hoping to do is to take the power out of the artist and the venue to determine what happens with that ticket. Something that's very clear also that this legislation will codify is a ticket is a license, not a piece of property, and not a lawyer, but the difference, the importance for the difference is just like if you buy an airline ticket, you can't sell it to your friend. You can't sell it for more than anything. The difference, and nobody questions that. And the airline, if you misbehave, can get you off that plane and can say that you may not fly on our airline again. For safety reasons, we need to keep it as a license, because there are people that sometimes behave in such a way that endangers other people in the venue. And there's also artist gives, and so we need to extricate them. If it's property, they would have every right to stay. They don't. It needs to be a license. And there are artists that we get lists from, stalkers, that they say, don't let this person in the venue. And we really try to honor that, because if they have a court order against people, that they've had to already prove that this person's a problem. And so that's another reason why it's a license.
That's something I never thought about. I mean, all these, super famous people do have their own stalkers and crazy people that are following them. I just never thought. I mean, here's our rider and here's our list of people that you can't allow in. That's wild.
Right. And sometimes we'll find people that are surreptitiously filming or something. So we'll get them out and then put them on a banned list. That's a rarity, but there's got to be, and some shows are 21 and over. So if you say that a ticket is property and you sell it to a 16-year-old, we can't let them in. It's not property.
I wish there was something that could be, I know, and not that this means anything, but on the social media sites, you've got the verified badges. And when you go to a website, it's got the little padlock that tells you it's a secure website. God, you would think there would be something that they could put on a venue site that consumers would know that, oh, this is a legitimate one. But I know for everything that you put up, somebody's going to right click, save that image to their hard drive and upload it to their fake website and do it again. You got to think, with all the technology we have, you think we would be able to figure this out.
We might have with this bill. And I by nature, I'm a healthy combo of optimism and cynicism. And I still am really optimistic about this because it is so simple. And we'll definitely, once this gets passed, fingers crossed, it won't be taking effect until October of this year, but we'll definitely work with the Attorney General's office, the Consumer Protection Bureau is what's in charge of it, enforcement, to give as much intelligence as we can about the ticket buying process and what they can look for in order to enforce it. But I think it's going to be way easier to enforce than a lot of other bills that I've heard about in other states.
That's fantastic. Well, for those that are listening, we need to get behind this. We need to support this. I suggest you contact your senator or delegate here. We have elections coming up and elections matter. Let them know that. I'm going to get a link so you can find out who your delegate or senator is and just contact them and just say, this is a bill that you support, very pro-consumer, and that you would like to see some more shows that you can afford to go see here. And, they don't all have to be at the wonderful ones that IMP has. I mean, we've got Ram's Head here. We've got just even smaller venues to be able to go in. And that's where the music grows. It grows, organically from hometown. And Maggie Rogers, she's Easton, I think it is. And, now she's, playing, Merriweather with what, 25,000 capacity or something like that.
About 18. Yeah. About 18 to 20. Yeah.
She's absolutely wonderful, but and we all would much rather spend $1.25 on Taylor Swift tickets than 5,000, because there's an awful lot more that we can do with that $48.75 that's went into somebody's pocket. Getting somebody
exactly
fat and rich, that's for sure.
Oh, I can tell you that our Maryland customers have demonstrated that they really do care about this, because when the bill just was introduced a little bit more than a month ago, we sent an email to all of our Maryland customers explaining what the bill is and saying, if you care about this too, here's how you can send an email to your legislators. And more than 7,000 emails went out in a 24-hour period.
That's significant.
I was floored. I didn't know what to expect, but I sure didn't expect that.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, earlier you had mentioned the National Independent Venue Association, and I just want to give a quick shout out, because during COVID, independent venues were totally screwed. And I don't need to tell you that. You know that. Essentially shut down. Artists were holed up writing songs, doing whatever they were doing, but they certainly weren't out on tour. You weren't allowed to get into a lot of venues. And you really led a charge personally on this to be able to get the money that was there to save them. I mean, there were so many venues that were, and I'm sure many did go away. There wasn't one in this area that wasn't threatening to be put under because of this. And because of your efforts and your cohorts at the National Independent Venue Association, you really did save it. I mean,
thank you for noticing. It was certainly a team effort. No one person or no 10 people alone could have done it. But I was really, it was a calling no one ever expects to have. But you can't let your businesses go under, and then you can't let everybody else's businesses go under then. And it was a very desperate time. So the association was formed. It didn't exist before COVID. And within about a week, we had 350 members, and then 3,000. All were in every state in the land. But one of the things that was such a driver was we did a survey of the members and found out that 90% of them said at that time that if the shutdowns were to last more than 6 months, they would go under. And at first I was like, what? And then I realized, oh yeah, of course. Who has that kind of money just sitting around waiting for a historic disaster? It's not like other economic times. We didn't know when we were going to get to open, and there was no way to, when you're completely shuttered, there's no way to develop revenue, but your bills don't stop. And by so much, we formed teams of people to lobby, and we hired Aiken Gump, which is just a fantastic lobbying firm in DC, one of the biggest, and for a good reason. And they fought for us like they were us, and all of us together, we were able to get a $16 billion bill passed to save our stages. And we did that at a time where everybody else needed money for understandable reasons, and when everything was so polarized. But we were determined to do it through the means of we were not a red issue or a blue issue. We were a green issue. And that for every town across in every state has venues like ours, that if they didn't come back, the whole downtown would be harmed. And there was a study out of Chicago the year before COVID that was really helpful in illustrating it, that showed for every dollar spent at a small music venue, $12 of economic activity is realized by the area businesses.
It's so true that art really does, and, performing art and everything else, and it's very easy to overlook, but it's such a huge driver to the economy. But you turn around and it does cross the lines. It's gay, it's straight, it's black, it's white, it's red, it's blue.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I've often used the analogy like I love a Grateful Dead show because you're likely to see grandpa grooving with his kid, grooving with his kid, grooving with his kid. You can see 4 generations all holding hands, grooving at a Dead show. Okay. And it tells you that, it really does transcend all boundaries and is a real common unifying factor, whether it be music or whether it be art, visual arts or, anything else you have. So, the message is support the arts. The easy way is to support this bill. Let your legislators know on this. And I want to let you get back to your driving. And I want to thank Audrey very much for your time this afternoon. And we need to make sure that we plug the greatest venues in the DC, the 930 Club, the Atlantic, the Lincoln Theater, the Anthem down at the Wharf, and of course, Merriweather Post Pavilion, which all have incredible shows pretty much every day of the year, it seems. I don't, your booker, I don't envy that person.
There's a couple of them, and it's about 4 on the team. And just as an example, thank you for all of this, by the way. Your visibility on it means so much. There in September, speaking about our bookers, we had 87 shows just in September, and of which I got to 27 of them, which was mind blowing for me. But yeah, we're busy, but it's not just us. It's the 8x10, it's the Auto Bar, it's Ram's Head, as you say. And in DC, it's DC9 and Songbird. There's so many small music venues, medium-sized music venues that make our communities better because of not just the art, but the commerce too, and what it brings and the jobs.
Get out there and see some live music. If you're not sure what's coming down the road, you want to go to impconcerts.com. And that's sort of like the main master page, which has all of the different venues. And you can sign up for the newsletters and get in the know about what's coming and where to get the tickets, most importantly. And always go to the source. And that's probably just a good life lesson for pretty much anything in the world is, go right to the source and you'll probably be okay and get yourself a legitimate ticket for a legitimate time.
Thank you so much.
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.